to come to this area. My second daughter was really jealous that I was coming to this area because one of our favorite TV shows is filmed here, Supernaturals. Anybody like that show? So she actually gave me a list. She looked up addresses of places where it had been filmed. Go here and get a picture, Dad. Go here and get a picture. So I spent 3 hours driving around British Columbia yesterday. I have a doctorate in naturopathy. I'm a certified clinical master aromatherapist, a certified elite essential oil specialist, a certified professional coach, and an alternative medical practitioner, board certified. And my goal, really, when I got into natural medicine has always been to empower people to take care of themselves. I'm passionate that people should primarily be responsible for their own health. And so my goal was to empower people to do that, to give you the tools. And so I started writing books, and 13 books later, I feel like I'm starting to accomplish that. Okay. And so I'm going to start with essential oils, and then we're going to get into some of these amazing products that we released at our summit. Because Bob told me that I might be lynched if I didn't do some essential oil training to start off, so I don't want that to happen. So I say essential oils are one of the most empowering tools that we can use for our family. And the reason is because they're highly concentrated extracts that have significant potential to influence multiple aspects of our well-being. And they are simple to use, and they have long shelf lives, and there's so many reasons why essential oils can be part of the most important tools to help us to restore our body naturally. Because that's really what essential oils do, is they don't work against the body, but they restore normal functions within the body. They help facilitate those. And we're to the point now with science that we know that essential oils do that, not just at the cellular level, but at the subcellular level. They actually work inside with the individual organelles and facilitating them at the subcellular level. So pretty amazing that science has taken us that far. One of the most common things that I get asked is, well, Walmart sells essential oils now, right? Has anybody seen those? So why can't I just go to Walmart and buy their $8 or $9 oil and get the same results? And it's pretty simple. Not all oils are created equal, right? They are not created equal. That is a myth. The essential oils at Walmart, I have tested those in labs, and I'm telling you, I wouldn't even diffuse those in my home. Okay? That they're a chemical smattering of synthetic chemicals that have been put together to mimic essential oils. They're not true essential oils. And so if we expect to get good results when we use an essential oil clinically or therapeutically, we have to ensure that our essential oils are actually clinical grade. They meet a standard that shows that they're going to work effectively and they're not going to produce any harmful effects as a result of their use. Like you would if you use that synthetic garbage that you might find at Walmart or other stores. You might buy them online. I bought some online as well. I bought some online and I test them, and there's some pretty bad ones out there that you need to be aware of. So people ask me, well, how do I know if my essential oil company is going to provide me the oils that I need in order to get that restoration? Well, I have a list up here of things that we can do. This is in my book that's pictured there too, so if you ever wanted to come back to look at it, you don't have to take real copious notes about this if you have that book. But first of all, it's a company that has expertise in the distillation process. They partner with people who are experts in their craft and know how to take these botanicals, these precious botanicals, and distill them correctly with the right temperature and the right pressure in order to produce a high quality essential oil. Another one is to look for a company that has published essential oils research in scientific journals. And they take a clinical approach to their essential oils. Dr. Plant has definitely published some literature on essential oils that have revolutionized the essential oil industry and the essential oil space. He's applied some assays that have been used in biotech forever that nobody thought to apply to essential oils until he decided to do so. So that's another thing. A company that verifies their purity and the authenticity of their botanicals with their own laboratories and with third-party laboratories as well. I can tell you that we do that. And the other thing is, those tests are great, but if you don't have an educated scientist to read it and to interpret those results, then it really is no good, right? And so we have scientists who can interpret those results, and I collaborate with those scientists to ensure that we're getting those key bioactives, the key constituents that you want to see in each one of the essential oils. In fact, I think I frustrated some chemists and scientists because I really am almost a perfectionist when it comes to my essential oils. And so I'll ask them, now I need to look at this constituent, I need to make sure that's there in this essential oil, because that helps to facilitate the activity that I want to get out of the essential oil. And the chemist will say, well, that's only in there at 1%. Why are you having me look for that compound? And I said, because that 1% helps to drive the activity of the essential oil, so I need to see it there. And so they search for it, and they identify it for me. This is really important, and this is unique to AMEO. When you're talking about direct selling companies that have essential oils, they're willing to share your results. So every bottle of essential oil that you get has a batch code on the bottom of it. And you can go to the ameodifference.com, you type in that batch code, and you can see all the test results that I just talked about to ensure you have a high quality essential oil in that bottle. That's very transparent, and that was very refreshing to me that somebody was doing that, because if I'm going to spend $100 for my helichrysum oil, right, I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. I'm getting value. I'm getting a high quality essential oil. So here's some other things that we can look at, because there are a lot of different standards that people say, well, there's therapeutic grade, and there's this grade, and there's that grade, and then we have clinical grade. So how do you differentiate these? So one of them is, if somebody says they have therapeutic grade, they're using a database to determine that they have therapeutic grade that is established by one individual, or by a company, or by their organization. The clinical grade is different in the fact that we went out and determined the grade based on studies published in peer-reviewed journals. And so we went out and gathered all the essential oil composition and the quality data that has been put into the literature by hundreds of different scientists and hundreds of different institutions, and then created a database based on those that showed benefits with clinical data. So if they used this essential oil in a clinical study, we wanted to make sure that our essential oils met that criteria or exceeded it. And so that's one thing. Most companies won't share their essential oil testing results with you. In fact, I had an interesting experience when I was doing just kind of a research project to prove that it's a myth that all essential oil companies are created equal. And I started to buy several companies I just would go on Amazon and I'd buy some, or I'd buy some in local areas, and I started to send them out to labs and get them tested and get results so that I could compile this data and look at how the difference between the essential oils. One of the companies required that I call in order to purchase their essential oils. That was the only way you could do it. So I called this company, and it happened that this company also was just local to my area. It was a little bit south of me. And so where I live. And I called and I was talking to the customer representative, and I said, look, I want to buy these 3 essential oils from you. And I said, but, you know, I'm particular about my essential oils. Would you mind also sharing with me the tests that you do on those bottles that I'm buying from you to make me feel comfortable that I have a high quality essential oil? And the customer service rep said, you know, we don't do that. That is just our company policy, that we don't share that kind of information. I said, okay, no worries. Because I knew in my mind I was going to send them to a lab anyway and test them. So I was going to get the results anyway. So she said, okay, let me get your information. And I gave her my name, and there was a pause. And she says, Scott Johnson, the author? And I said, yes. And she said, oh, I have one of your books. And then she goes, can I put you on hold for just a brief moment? And I said, okay, that's kind of weird. But yeah, so I'm on hold, and it's been like 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm going, what is going on? I mean, did I make her angry, or what's going on that I have to be on hold for 5 to 7 minutes? And she finally comes back on, and she goes, Dr. Johnson, I'm sorry to keep you on hold for so long. The CEO of the company and the board of directors actually know you, and they were curious why you're asking about this information, so they're wondering if you're available to go to lunch with them this week and to talk about it further. So I said, okay. So I set up a time to go meet with their board of directors and have lunch with their CEO. And it ended up being that they were more interested in trying to get me to come on board with their company was the reason for the lunch. The guys was the information. But at the end of the lunch, they said, we just don't share that information against us. And so we no longer share this data with anybody. And I thought, well, that makes me even more curious. And so I bought the 3 oils I wanted, I sent it out to the lab, and I got the results back, and I understood why they don't share their information. Another thing is that typical companies will only use standard testing methods. A lot of them, they just solely rely on what's called gas chromatography mass spectrometry. So that's GCMS for short. And that really identifies the constituents in your essential oil, as well as what percentage of each one of those constituents is in that essential oil. The problem is that those tests, people are getting to the point now they can trick those tests, and so you can actually create an essential oil with some synthetic or some added compounds and pass that GCMS test. So you have to do other things, like isometric analysis and doing optical rotation and specific gravity tests and several other tests, but Ameo goes beyond that. They actually take your essential oil, we send it to a lab, and have them introduce the essential oil into a special microscope with live cells inside it, and we can watch with this special microscope how the essential oil actually interacts with the cell and penetrates it and goes inside the cell and where it goes once it's there. That's how we know where they go subcellularly, is with this special microscope. And so we go beyond and we do that, and there's other tests that we have applied that are above and beyond the standard tests. Now this is the one that drives me the most crazy, is there's companies out there, and one in particularly, that they will scream to the high heavens that they are the only one on God's green earth that has an essential oil that is high quality. And they will just scream to you that there's nobody else that can even have an essential oil that can meet their quality. The funny thing is, the same group as the CEO and the board of directors that went with me, they actually found this company's sources for a few of their oils, and they sourced the exact same oil. And so they have identical oils to this company that's screaming, nobody else has the same quality of essential oils as we do. Okay? So the reality is, sometimes there's large farms for particular oils, and so that large farm will sell to a few different companies. And so the reality is, sometimes you're going to have two different companies with the same oil, and that could be the case. But what I do say, and what Ameo says, is while you can find quality Sometimes with others, we actually have quality consistently across the board. That's the difference. When our pine oil that we just introduced is a great example. I had to go through many different samples before I finally found the one I wanted. And it wasn't that they were bad oils, they actually were good oils. I was just looking for a very specific composition that had been shown in the studies to give us the most benefits. And that was, I kept looking for it until I found it. So that's kind of some of the differences. Here's that test I was talking about. You can see on the screen. Hopefully you can see it enough, but you can see the color interactions. It's called laser scanning confocal microscopy. Now try and say that 5 times fast. Right? It's a test that you introduce. Oh, for some reason it jumped forward. Let's see if I can get it back. Maybe. It doesn't want me to talk about the laser scanning confocal microscopy for some reason. For some reason it's pulling up this other piece, so we'll just leave it where it's at. It still has the right information, but it's pulling up a KCO2 analysis study now. So basically, what we talked about it a little, you take a live cell, it's in a dish underneath a special microscope that works in different colors. And if you were able to see the video as it started to play, you would see the different colors occurring on the screen, and you see the blues and the greens. That's the nucleus of the cell and the cytoplasm and the membrane around the cell. And the other part of it, as the red starts to occur, that's when the essential oil's been introduced under the microscope. And the red is the interaction, the cellular interaction of the essential oil with the cell that is on that plate. And so that's how laser scanning confocal microscopy works. And it proves that your cell, or your essential oil, is active in the cell, and that it also where it goes when it's in the cell. And that's how we know how it works subcellularly. The second one here, now that we're on this screen, that we've applied is called the KCO2 analysis. The KCO2 analysis is actually a study that the pharmaceutical and supplement industry has been using for decades. And it's how we identified that, like, vitamin C works with iron and helps facilitate absorption. It's basically simulates your taking an essential oil orally, and it simulates the digestive system. On the screen on the left side here, you see 2 different media. There's 2 different containers, and one is sitting inside of another one. And on the bottom of that is a plate of intestinal cells. And those intestinal cells simulate like what happens when we ingest any substance, really. And then as it hits the intestinal cells, scientists watch to see how much of that substance penetrates through those cells and gets into the outer container. And that tells us how fast things absorb. But what this did is this identified that there are certain essential oils that have constituents that are called supercarriers. These supercarriers actually not only rapidly absorb in a cell, but they will pull other essential oil constituents in, so you get a synergistic or an enhanced effect because of it. So anybody know what the 5 supercarriers are that were identified? Ylang Yang's one of them. Got it? Yes. That wasn't better. Lemongrass was one. Lavender was one. Balsam fir and ginger. Okay, so those were the 5. We actually put those all 5 in one product called cell therapy now. And so that's something that's unique to Ameo essential oils. So if you've watched any of my Thursday videos on the Dr. Plant page, you've heard me say it, but I'm going to say it again because repetition helps us learn, right? If you're taking an essential oil in a capsule, always add cell therapy to it. Why? Because we are going to enhance absorption and therefore the effectiveness of whatever else we're going to do. It's like taking, okay, I just put 2 drops of frankincense in my capsule. now that 2 drops maybe is working like 4 or 5 because I put the cell therapy in with it. So that's what we want to do with that. Genetics, epigenetics is a really fascinating field of study, and it is blowing up. We're starting to understand now how what you ate for breakfast this morning might affect your grandchildren because of what you ate. That's the level of what we're finding out in epigenetics, because epigenetics is a field of study of how our activities affect the expression of our genes. The Mayo, and specifically Dr. Plant, was involved in the largest epigenetic study with essential oils to date. Literally created billions of data points for scientists to comb through and to determine how essential oils affect genes. So what they found was that essential oils can turn genes up and down or on and off, and they cause this positive expression, which then makes the rest of the that system work properly. So for example, we have AGX men and women. How many like those products? Woo! So thank you for the 4 or 5 of you that humored me. Okay. We took the essential oils that we discovered were beneficial for hormone function in men and women. And we're talking, we don't just focus on one hormone. It's not just progesterone in women and not just testosterone in men. It's actually the whole spectrum of hormones that are involved in male and female health. We put them into one capsule so that you can take that every day and support your hormone function. So that's kind of a key system, isn't it? Hormones? Yeah, so we determined that the essential oils fall into one of 6 zones. They affect certain body systems, the expression of genes in certain body systems, based on the different essential oils. So peppermint is a good example. It's, well, I'll use wintergreen. Wintergreen falls in the central nervous system. Wintergreen actually benefits the central nervous system, and so we put it in a product called AGX Focus because it will help us focus because of its influence on the nervous system. And so you can go on and on with those products. Let's talk about how essential oils affect cellular function. This is based on published scientific research. So, for example, how many of you would like to keep your brain functioning properly? Kind of important, right? The American Psychological Association, about 10 years ago now, they did a study and they asked people who were of the baby boomer generation, as you're approaching your senior years, would you rather maintain your cognitive abilities, or would you be more fearful of losing cognitive abilities or dying? And they were more fearful of losing their cognitive abilities than dying. So we definitely want to maintain that cognitive ability. And essential oils can do that. Essential oils have a direct link to the brain. They are the only scent, they are the only thing that has, or the sense of smell is the only thing that directly links to the brain. So when you smell something, it immediately influences the brain, which is closely tied with the endocrine system. So you have hormone functions that are being improved just by smell. Particularly lemongrass. Lemongrass is one that they have shown in clinical research that it balances the production of glutamate. That's a neurotransmitter in the body, or in the brain, that is involved in learning and memory. So anybody want to be able to learn new things and to remember things? Kind of important, right? So when it balances that production, it helps support the communication of our brain cells so that we can actually have better learning and memory function. Lemon essential oil, so really cost-effective essential oil, right? Lemon is one of the relatively cheaper essential oils. And lemon essential oil actually helps to promote the healthy lifespan of brain cells that are found in our hippocampus. Now, our hippocampus is an area of the brain that's associated with memory, particularly long-term memory storage. So that's another one that helps to support healthy brain function. There's another one that where they've shown in studies that inhaling, so again, this is just inhaling eucalyptus globulus or lemon essential oil, that triggers the release of dopamine from brain cells. What does dopamine do? Feel-good hormone, right? They're neurotransmitters. So when you have dopamine release, it can modify our mood and our memory and our attention span. How about hearts? Okay, cardiovascular disease worldwide is the #1 killer worldwide. So cardiovascular disease is kind of important to maintain the health of our heart. Oregano. Okay, oregano oil is known to help prevent the oxidation of fats and LDL cholesterol. So we know that LDL cholesterol is called the bad cholesterol, right? The more that we have of it, the higher our risk for heart disease. But it also, one of the other indicators of our risk for heart disease is how much of that cholesterol has been oxidized. Everybody know what oxidation is? Anybody taken a banana and you started to eat it and then you forgot, you got a phone call and so you set it down on the counter and then you remember an hour later and you come back and is the banana yellow anymore? It's brown, right? That's the oxidation process occurring. Well, that same kind of process can occur in our bodies to fats and cholesterol. And so when we have higher amounts of oxidized LDL cholesterol, we actually have an increased risk of heart disease. Oregano prevents the oxidation of that LDL cholesterol. Another one is spearmint and myrtle essential oils. So both of those actually, they work with the body. They modulate the amount of calcium that enters inside the cells in the cardiovascular system, which then encourages relaxation of the blood vessels. And if we have relaxed blood vessels, then we can have better blood and oxygen supply throughout the body. Joints, we want to keep bone and joint health, right? So here's how essential oils can work with them. Alpha-pinene, that's one of the most widely distributed constituents in essential oils, one of the most commonly found. But it's particularly abundant in frankincense, and this study was using alpha-pinene from frankincense. It found that the alpha-pinene in frankincense, that it helps support the health of cells that make up healthy cartilage called chondrocytes. And so that can help promote good, healthy cartilage in our joints. Thyme, pine, and rosemary essential oil, that was a study where they determined that those actually help normalize bone remodeling or bone turnover. So in our bones, we think of them as just static, and they're once you hit adult, they're not growing anymore. They're just stationary in there, right? But the reality is you have a constant process of remodeling going on with your bones. And so your body has a set of cells that comes in and they remove old bone, and then another set of cells that comes and puts new bone matrix down so that you always have strong and healthy bones. Well, if that bone remodeling is not balanced between those two cells, then you can actually get porous bones. And so when we have thyme, pine, and rosemary, they're able to balance that activity between those two cells so that it supports healthy bones. So I tell people all the time, it really amounts to living an aromatic lifestyle. And when I say aromatic lifestyle, I mean using essential oils daily. There's like a cumulative benefit that occurs when you use them regularly and daily. And you can use them, we have them in our soap, we have them in our toothpaste, we have them in other products. You can inhale them, you can apply them, and so there's lots of ways that we can use them daily. But when you do so, you're supporting your cells at the subcellular level, which leads to healthy tissues, which are made of those cells, which leads to healthy organs, which are made of our tissues, and organ systems, and then a whole human body that can thrive. So that's why I suggest an aromatic lifestyle. Waterfall technique. Anybody experienced that yet here? Not really. You've had a chance? Okay. That's a technique that I developed using a specific set of essential oils from a Mayo in order to serve three purposes. Number one was to rejuvenate the cells. We wanted to clean the cell receptor sites, get junk off of them, such as maybe heavy metals or foreign estrogens, xenoestrogens, from BPA or from foods, so that our cells can communicate better. And then by enhancing that cellular communication, then we can positively influence cellular behavior and function. The other thing is, like I talked about, now we know how essential oils influence the cells at the subcellular level. One of the reasons that's important is we find that essential oils like to preferentially locate themselves to a specific organelle once they penetrate the cell's membrane. For example, peppermint and lemon, they like to go to the mitochondria of the cell. What are the mitochondria? Our energy power plants, right? They're what produces cellular energy. So is peppermint an energizing essential oil? Yeah, anybody ever put this, that's an immediate experience. You put a couple drops on your hands, rub it together, cup them over your nose and mouth, and you're energized, right? If that didn't energize you, put one drop in your eye, and you're really energized. No, don't really do that. Essential oils should never go in the eyes. But if you work with them as long as I have, I guarantee you're going to get them somewhere you don't want them. I've had the experience of in my eye before. But we find other things like wintergreen likes to go to the endoplasmic reticulum. And then we have other oils that just stay out in the cytoplasm. And so by knowing where each essential oil goes, we can actually get a greater balanced correction or a more complete correction of that cell's behavior. Because if I only use peppermint and lemon, I'm only really influencing the mitochondria of the cells. But if I throw in some basil and some wintergreen, then I'm hitting the endoplasmic reticulum and the cytoplasm as well, and getting a more complete corrective action of the cells. I also wanted to support key body systems. I was targeting the nervous system, the circulatory or the cardiovascular system, the immune and lymphatic system, which really work hand in hand, the musculoskeletal, and the endocrine system. And we actually optimized the function of each one of those systems by the end of the technique. And then lastly, I wanted to reduce limiting factors in wellness. Anybody here not feel stress, ever? Okay. In all the times I've ever asked that, I've only had one person raise their hand and say, I never feel stress. And I say, they probably have an honesty problem, right? Because everybody feels stressed. It's how we manage that stress and how we respond to it. The awesome thing is that research shows us that essential oils don't just help us feel better when we're stressed, they actually change our biochemistry. They reduce the amount of cortisol flowing through our blood, they reduce the amount of adrenaline that we're pumping through our veins, so that we actually can change our biochemistry to better respond to stress. Toxins. Are we exposed to toxins? Where are we exposed to toxins? Everywhere, right? Where are we not exposed to toxins? I always laugh when people tell me, why do you talk about detoxification? I don't get toxins in my body. It's going, how do you not get toxins in your body? In fact, there was a study, it was a recent study within the last decade that determined that they took 10 Americans and they actually determined their toxicity level. And when they tested their blood, they found that on average these Americans had over 200 toxins present in their body. Now, where do you think these Americans got exposed to this? Wasn't the air or the water. It wasn't their food. It wasn't their skincare or their shampoo, no.
Bed.
Nightclub, no. It wasn't what they drank, no.
Bed.
These Americans actually had only been born minutes ago.
Oh.
So in that controlled environment inside the womb, these Americans had a toxic burden of over 200 toxins each, which were endocrine disruptors, so it disrupts their hormone production. Some of them were neurotoxins, so it killed brain cells. And some of them were carcinogenic, so it causes cancer. So being born, because they tested this by drawing the blood from their umbilical. So that controlled environment inside their mother's womb did not protect them from the toxins that are available in our world to us. So what does that tell you about our toxic burden, what it may be? Yeah, I would say it's significant. So it's something that we need to help our body eliminate and mitigate. Harmful substances that we can be exposed to. We're in that time of season right now where harmful substances tend to thrive, and so we need to help our body against them. Negative emotions is another thing. Is it okay if I feel sadness sometimes? Yeah. That's a normal human emotion. How about angry? Okay, yeah, that's a normal human emotion. But if I can't drive from my hotel to here without honking my horn 7 times and telling the driver next to me that he's number 1, is that an issue with my emotions? Yeah. Okay, I need to inhale some essential oils if I'm doing that, right? So we don't want to feel negative emotions all the time. And so we want to help our body to feel positive emotions, and that's something that we can accomplish with the waterfall technique. And then muscular tension. Anybody ever feel muscular tension? How many of you have a smartphone in your pocket? How many of you spend your time looking down like this all day at that smartphone? And so your neck is cranked down in an awkward position that it shouldn't be in. That is creating tension. The way we sit creates tension. The way we walk, the way we stand. And so we're constantly having tension, and we can help reduce that tension through the waterfall technique. So by the time you're done, you've had a whole body experience where you can have better peak vitality, and we can support health at not only just the cellular, but the subcellular level, and a whole host of other benefits. Most people tell me that after they've had it, they've had the best night's sleep they've ever had, that they can cope with stress better. In fact, I have a friend who won't allow me to tell her name because she's a very high-ranking person in another direct selling company that came over and had one of those from me because nothing else was working. And she said, you can't ever tell people my name, but I'll let you tell my story, that works better than anything I've ever used to cope with stress. So, by the time we're done, we're hopefully decompressing the spine, we've relieved muscle tension, we've optimized all of your key body systems, we've helped eliminate these negative emotions and other stress and things that reduce and limit our wellness to where you really can feel good. Let's see. So benefits of essential oils for family care. Why do I like them? The interesting thing about essential oils is, and I tell people this all the time, is during my entire doctorate degree in naturopathy, I only got 1 class on essential oils, and they actually lumped it in with Bach flower remedies, and the only thing they told me was, these are great to influence your emotions. That is all I learned. And I thought, wait a minute, you just told me these were highly concentrated. In fact, it's been estimated that 1 drop of peppermint is equivalent to drinking 28 cups of peppermint tea. But yet all I can do with them is to affect my emotions. It made no sense to me. And that's what actually set me on my quest to find out what they really do. And that's how I found out the many benefits that they have. But here's some of the reasons. They work simultaneously on your emotions and your physical health, mental, and spiritual. They work on all 4 aspects of your well-being simultaneously. So that's one of the key advantages. They have a long shelf life. Do they expire? Yes. Some people say essential oils never expire. They are not immune or fall outside the natural laws, okay? Everything can be oxidized eventually, and everything can degrade eventually. But they do have a very long shelf life. In fact, there was a study done where a family had been in the essential oil industry. They'd had a peppermint farm in the United States. And they had grown peppermint plants, and they'd been distilling essential oils for decades. Well, the children decided that they didn't want to maintain the family's farm, and they didn't want to continue in the business anymore. And so when the parents died, they said, we're going to sell all the assets, and we're going to close down the farm. And as they were cleaning out the cellar, they found a bottle of peppermint. It had a liter of peppermint in this sealed jar that had been in the cellar. And they didn't know what to do with it because it was labeled from 50 years ago. And so they said, I bet the local university would be interested in this. So they contacted a professor there, and they said, we have a liter of 50-year-old peppermint. Would you be interested in it? Now, what scientist would not be interested in having that? So he, of course, said, yes, bring it to me. They brought it to him, and he took some fresh peppermint plants, and he distilled those, and he compared the 50-year-old peppermint to the freshly distilled peppermint. What he found was that the 50-year-old peppermint still had equivalent or better antimicrobial activity and a better chemical composition than the one that was freshly distilled. So will they last a long time? Yes. If you leave a bottle unopened and it's in a cool, dark place like a cellar like that, they can last many, many years. Another advantage of them is they have virtually unequaled versatility. Some people say, I hear you're into that essential oil stuff and you've written books, so tell me what lavender is good for. How long do you have to spend with me? Lavender is the most researched essential oil, and it's called the Swiss Army knife of essential oils for good reason. There are multiple reasons or benefits of it, and multiple purposes for it. And so they're very versatile. That's why they're empowering. You can have a reasonable quantity of essential oils, and you can accomplish a lot. In fact, I've had people tell me, all I had when I smashed my hand was a citrus essential oil, and so I put that on, and guess what? It actually relieved the pain, and it helped reduce the swelling. So sometimes even when you apply the quote-unquote wrong essential oil, you can still get good benefits from it. So that's another reason. They're potent. We talked about how they're far more potent than their herbal cousins, and they're safe. When you just follow a few simple guidelines, they're very safe to use, and you can expect to get good results without unintended consequences. And then they're easy to use. I have trusted my very young children with them because I teach them how to use them. In fact, if you were to go into each one of my children's bedroom, their nightstand usually is just full of essential oils and a diffuser next to it. That's how they're raised. And every night, at least two of them I know diffuse every night. The others, it's more of just kind of an occasional thing, but two, they won't sleep without them on. And so they diffuse every night. And you can teach kids easy how to drop essential oils. I've made roller bottles for them so that they can, even very young kids, and my kids know where they are. We usually label them according to what they're going to use them for. So I'll have in our bathroom, we have in the closet a shelf of essential oils with roller bottles, and they'll be labeled headache or bruise or something like that. And they just go in and grab them and they put them on. And I was having a Skype call last night, and my son, who's 11, he actually jammed and got almost a minor sprain in his thumb the day before I flew out. And he was telling me, Dad, I've been putting on that new Embolden blend, and my thumb is feeling so much better today. I say, yeah, that's what you expect when you apply essential oils right. And he says, I know. So they're learning. It's easy to teach even the youngest children how to use them correctly and get good results. So anybody who knows me knows that I want to be safe in anything that I do. We have the mantra to first do no harm, right? And so let's talk just a few of the general safety guidelines. Always have carrier oil and use it, okay? Whenever you're going to apply an essential oil topically, a carrier oil is a good idea. And that's because it can help to reduce any kind of aggravation that you could have from the skin, particularly in sensitive individuals. So people who have an autoimmune condition, who have a chronic skin condition like eczema or psoriasis, people who have allergies, whether they're seasonal or food allergies, those people are more prone to be sensitive if you apply essential oils topically. And so we always want to dilute with them. You'll want to always dilute with hot oils. What's a hot oil? Oregano, cinnamon, those are two great examples of hot oils. And by hot, we just mean they have a greater risk of irritation, so we want to make sure that we're diluting them. Keep essential oils away from the eyes and other sensitive areas, okay? If you give your wife a nice essential oil massage, be careful the next time you use the bathroom, men. I'm not saying that from personal experience, but I'll just tell you it hurts, okay? So just be careful. You don't want to put essential oils directly in your eye. That's not a good idea. I've actually seen studies where they have done that, and it surprises me, but we're talking they diluted them down to where there was hardly any essential oil left in there. I wouldn't recommend doing that just because it's something that is very irritating if you've ever got them in your eye. So let's just talk about real quickly, what do we do if we get essential oils in our eye? Don't use water. Dilute with carrier oil. It feels weird. You can put an olive oil, coconut oil, whatever fatty vegetable oil you have, put it in your eye. It feels weird, but it feels a lot better than the irritation of the essential oil. Okay? Other things you could use is milk. So if you have milk around, and in a pinch, here's something that will rescue most of you in here. I don't have any chance. Your hair. You actually can put your hair in your eye, and because there's some natural oils on the hair, it will pull it out of your eye. So if this happens, put the towel and continue to do that until it stops hurting. So if I get some in my eye today, I'll be running to one of you who have hair to be asking for help, okay? Never apply essential oils directly into the ear, so we don't drop oils directly into our ear canal. I had a friend who listened to me say this at one of my lectures, and then went home and she had an earache and she put it in, and she made her earache much worse because of that. Because the problem is, once essential oils get into your ear and into that area, they're not going anywhere until they evaporate, which, depending on the oil you put in, could be 2 to 24 hours later. So don't ever put them directly in. How do we use essential oils for the ear? You can apply it on the fleshy part of it, or put a drop on the cotton ball and put the cotton ball in the ear. That allows the essential oils to evaporate into the ear, and you get the same benefits. Apply photosensitizing oils. So we're talking a lot of our citrus oils, the bergamot, the grapefruit, and the lemon. Put that where the sun doesn't shine, and not where you just thought of. Bottoms of the feet, right? Where your clothing is going to cover, somewhere like that. Because what could happen is if you put, for example, bergamot on and you go, oh, now it's a nice day, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to tan, and you could get a blister or a rash. Worst I've ever seen was a lady put 2 drops of bergamot on her neck because she was nervous about her first time going suntanning in a sunbed. She had a blister the size of a baseball on her neck by the time she was done. Okay? We don't want those, so whenever we put those kind of oils, we put them where we're not going to expose them to the sun, or we avoid the sun for 12 hours. Here's one that I kind of laugh at because you have to say this, but if you are taking medication or you have a health condition, consult with your doctor or pharmacist. before using essential oils, and they're going to look at you like a deer in the headlights, like I have no idea what to tell you what to do. So that's where you tell them to buy one of my books, because my books actually will tell them, and I have many pharmacists and doctors who actually keep them in their office as a resource so that they can then advise their patients whether there's an interaction with the medication or whether they should be taking that. So that's if you want to just be ahead of the game, then you can get one of my books, and you'll probably know a lot more than your doctor does. Okay, safety with pregnancy and lactation. This is a really common question I get. Now here's the problem we have with pregnancy and lactation. What we do know is that anything below a certain molecular weight will actually travel across the placenta and enter into the baby's bloodstream. The essential oils just happen to be all under that molecular weight, which means that they can travel across the placenta and enter the baby's bloodstream. Now that can be a good or a bad thing, depending on which oil you are choosing to use at the time. The other problem we have is what mother that's pregnant in their right mind is going to sign up for clinical study to determine how many drops of a certain amount of oil we have to take for you to ingest or to put on your body before we harm your baby. Nobody is going to do that. And so we have to learn from what we have seen in when people intentionally try and use substances to induce an abortion, or what they do when or from animal studies. They have done animal studies where they test essential oils. So we have to learn from that data and create a group of essential oils that we should be more cautious with. For example, wintergreen is one that you would be more cautious with when you are pregnant. And so we want to use safe and mild essential oils. So mild essential oils would be like your chamomiles and your citrus oils, copaiba, lavender, frankincense, and so there are a lot of options to still consider even though you're pregnant. I tell people I think that they can be great and they can actually make that time more comfortable, but it's ultimately a decision that you need to make with your healthcare provider. And so do make that decision for yourself, but I think they can be a great addition. Children are another thing that you just have to be a little more cautious with because they're smaller bodies and they are more susceptible to the effects. In fact, you can use far less essential oil on an infant or a baby and get great results than it would take to get the same results from us adults. So some essential oils like rosemary and eucalyptus, they're high in a compound called eucalyptol or 1,8-cineol, and that actually can affect their respiratory rate, and it can make that respiratory rate decrease a little bit when they inhale that essential oil. So because of that, that typically happens to children who are 2 or under. If they are under the age of 3, then we would want to avoid using those essential oils around them. So I think I have them listed in there. Ones that we have that might do that would be like an AGX Breathe, eucalyptus, peppermint, fennel, rosemary, soothing air, and determination, because these have compounds in them that might negatively affect very young children. Wintergreen is another one. Wintergreen is typically a good wintergreen is about 98% methyl salicylate. Methyl salicylate is a compound very similar to aspirin. And we know that when you give a child that has a fever or a viral illness aspirin that is under the age of 12, you increase their risk of Reye's syndrome. Reye's syndrome is a devastating condition that causes swelling of the brain and the liver. And so we don't want to give a child who's under 12 who is in a fever or viral illness wintergreen because it is very similar to aspirin in its composition. So some general usage guidelines. One of the first things is that you want to apply essential oils at the first signs of you feeling off. You're having a scratchy throat, your nose is running more, any kind of signs like that, that's when you want to start using it, because the sooner you apply and use essential oils, the sooner you can expect restoration. Apply essential oils as often as every few minutes in intense or severe situations. And the general rule is more like 2 to 4 times on long-lasting conditions, or 1 to 3 times daily. So apply essential oils based on your body size. Obviously, a man that's 275 pounds is going to need more than somebody who's, a 10-year-old kid that may be only 65 pounds. So we'll apply based on their size. If you don't experience results, then you may want to just change how you're using the essential oils, or change the oil you're using. If you were applying topically, maybe you need to diffuse. Or if you're using rosemary, maybe you need to choose eucalyptus. Just change the things that you're doing. Apply hot oils to the feet. That can just reduce irritation. So your cinnamon, oregano, thyme is somewhat like that as well. And then I say diffuse essential oils to enhance benefits, because how many of us, when we're feeling bad, you have an emotional response, right? So diffusing can help with that emotional response, and it's also giving another entrance way for your body to absorb the essential oils and get it into the systemic circulation. So I want to go through some practical ways we can use essential oils. One is to soothe minor blisters. So we want to improve the appearance of those. How am I doing on time? We're okay? Soothe minor blisters. My first and now go-to is Embolden, the one that we just released. That works really, really well. So but you also could use AGX Skin or Calming Breeze. Either one of those, or Pure Tranquility is even another one that you could use. Those are options that you could use to help soothe and improve the appearance of minor blisters. How you would use it: you apply 1 drop, basically enough to cover the area, and do that several times daily. Bumps and bruises, same thing. Embolden is a great one. Calming Breeze is another good one to choose. And really similar to how you're taking care of a blister, you're going to apply enough to cover the area, and do that several times a day. How many of you have kids, toddlers? They have battle wounds like that all the time, right? They're the right height, but every time they fall, that coffee table just gets the better of them, right? So this is one that you definitely want if you have young kids. Minor cuts and scrapes, if we want to improve the appearance of that. First of all, we want to cleanse the area. So cleansing can be done with Pure V, and you can apply that directly to the wound. Just note that in some people that may sting a little bit, so they need to be prepared for that. It's not intense, but it might sting, just a minor sting, same as if a lot of the sprays you apply that are cleansing, same kind of experience. And then aid the normal repair process of that cut. You can do that with AGX Skin or Embolden, so you apply that again on it or around the area. Minor diaper irritation. This is a common question I get from mothers, and this is we would take 1 drop each of our, we have Roman chamomile, German will work too if you wanted to use that, tea tree, and then lavender. And you mix that in about 2 teaspoons of the carrier oil, and then just apply a small amount of this at each diaper change. That works really well, provides some protection if there's any kind of cleansing that needs to go on there with that area as well. Minor sunburn, okay? So if we want to help with the minor sunburn, lavender is a great way to do that. How I typically handle this is I have lavender, I put that directly on the burn, and then I cover that with some aloe. And it works really well together. So we do have an aloe coconut massage blender carrier oil that you could use, but continue to apply that until relief is achieved. Respiratory support will really depend on the age of the individual that you're working with. For younger children, you were talking infants, then we're going to look at creating a custom blend that includes our lavender and tea tree and lemon. And when you create that mixture, then you're going to add 1 drop of that mixture and apply that with some carrier oil to the chest. And you could apply to the upper back as well for respiratory support. Older children who are aged 1 to 5, then I would add into that the myrtle. Myrtle is one of my favorite essential oils for the respiratory system because it's very well balanced with eucalyptol and alpha-pinene. So you would create the same the mixture and then add myrtle to it, but then applying to the same area, upper chest, back area. Older children who are aged 6 to 17, then you could start to introduce the AGX Breathe and the Soothing Air. Those are great options for them. And the same thing, we're just going to apply it to the chest and upper back. And at this point, you could also diffuse any of those options as well. It's for added benefits. When we get into adults, and we're going to use Soothing Air and AGX Breathe, you don't need to dilute it as much and apply to the same area, to the chest and the upper back for respiratory support. Immune support is similar. Again, we're going to do it according to age, and so tea tree and lemon can be used on infants. 1 drop of each of those, and put that in 2 teaspoons of a carrier oil, and then apply a very small amount to the spine and to the bottoms of the feet. Essential oils are rapidly absorbed when they're applied to the spine, really rapidly. Children 1 to 5, we're going to create a mixture again, and at that same time you're going to just apply again to the feet, to the spine. Ages 6 to 17, that's when we can start using the Pro Shield blend, and that one just makes it easier because you don't have to mix your own. But again, we're going to dilute and apply it to the bottoms of the feet. I wouldn't necessarily put the Pro Shield on the spine only because the cinnamon content in it can be a little bit irritating, so this would be predominantly on the feet. And then adults, we would do the Pro Shield again with less dilution on the feet. You also could consider adding some cell therapy and some cell support with it. Occasional head and neck tension. Relaxing touch is a great option for this. And you can apply that right here on the temples, across the forehead and back of the neck. If it's a significant tension, then right behind the ears as well, and you're going to definitely dilute that before that. The face is one of the more sensitive areas on the body, so you just want to make sure that you're diluting those before you apply it. Okay, so occasional irregularities. So we're going too often to the bathroom, then we would use our Jest Calm, and you're going to apply that to the lower abdomen in a circular clockwise direction. If you're going to off or not enough, then we can use the AGX Metabolism. you're going to put about 1 to 2 drops in some carrier oil, and again, applying it to the same area in a circular clockwise motion. This is a great one that will help to cool an elevated temperature. It's a formula that I've put together that works really well. You're going to take a pint of lukewarm water, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So yes, it's the apple cider vinegar, not the white vinegar. 3 drops of lavender, 1 drop of lemon, and then you dip a clean washcloth or a rag or something in that. Wring it out and apply that across the forehead. You can also wipe that down the spine. And then just refresh that regularly for them. That works really well for ages, infants to about 5 years. Once you get into your adolescents, teens, adults, peppermint is actually a really good option. Mosquito bites, bug bites, things like that. This is one where you have lots of different options, but basil, tea tree, and lavender can be used individually, or you could actually combine them together and use them together as a blend. Just keep applying repeated doses until you experience relief. So there's the instructions. I usually do that when my kids get something like this. I'll use it like every 10 to 15 minutes for the first couple of hours, and then from then it's just like every 2 to 4 hours to keep the irritation down. Sore, tired muscles, we have Muscle Mend, or you can use Relaxing Touch. You take 1 to 3 drops and mix it in some of the massage blend or the carrier oil and massage it into your sore muscles. If you're lucky, you find somebody to do that for you and you get a nice little massage. Overexerted throat. You went to your hockey game and you didn't like the officials, and so you yelled at them too much, and now your throat's suffering, right? We can make it gargle with peppermint and Pro Shield. So you mix some water and honey with a drop of peppermint and Pro Shield and gargle with that. Or we have Pro Shield throat lozenges now, so you can just make it easy and take that back with you to the game or whatever you're doing. Teething is another common question I get from others. Is there anything natural that we can do for teething? Copaiba is my favorite one. I'll tell you right now, we have the best Copaiba I have ever seen and ever had a chance to experience with. And it's one of my top 5 favorites, so I'm really excited about our Copaiba. It has about 80% beta-caryophyllene. Beta-caryophyllene is the most active constituent in essential oils, and just to give you a perspective on that, I've measured other competitors that have had as low as about 30% beta-caryophyllene. So, we're more 2.5 times what they have. So it works really well to support a normal inflammatory response and to reduce occasional discomforts. And so that one is one you take a drop of Copaiba and put it in about a tablespoon of carrier oil, then just dip your finger in that and rub it along their gums. The other nice thing is it's pretty mild. It's in its flavor. I put it under my tongue all the time. And so it's one that is really mild, so it's not going to be something that they'll gag on. So that's what you can do for that. Okay, so I think now we're going to switch to the next about these products. But do we want to take, where's Bob? Do we want to take a little bit of a few minute break, let people stand, or use it? You just want to keep going? Oh, okay, we'll just keep going. All right. So we're going to load up that next PowerPoint, and we're going to talk about these new products.